Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I did not expect so many to be in here. Tonight we're going to go over Project Cold Case Homicide Unsolved. Before I get started, I want to say hi to everyone. Hey, Frank, thank you for coming in. We have Kelly Kavanaugh. How are you doing, sis? Haven't seen you in a bit. We have Lizzie, Potato Casserole. We have Unscripted Chronicle. We have Casserole. I love carbs, of course. We have Sunny. I think that's it. All right, guys. So what I kind of do is I keep it an hour. I don't keep it. It may go over a little bit of an hour, but I kind of want to get these out. My goal here is to talk about the person before the tragedy. None of us want to be remembered by how we died. We want to be remembered by who we were. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get started, and we'll just go from there. All right, so first we have Bridget Hall. Now, just a few months before she was murdered in 2015, Bridget Hall, a 43-year-old mom, was helping with plan Stop the Violence event in a response to growing crime in her hometown of Brookhaven, Mississippi. Now, Bridget, known as a peacemaker by those close to her, grew up in a large family with 10 older siblings. In high school, Bridget was very well liked. She was a cheerleader. Now, she was also elected homecoming queen in her senior year. Now, after high school, she attended Jackson State University on a singing scholarship. Later in her life, she became a phlebotomist, which is someone that collects blood from patients and prepares the samples for testing. Yes, I know I said that wrong. Sorry, guys. She had her first child in college. She got married. She began her career and moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Now, what Bridget was most known for was her greatest ambition. She loved to sing. Now, she grew up singing in church. She even was inspired to sing like professionally. She had a voice from heaven, said Abe London, her youngest brother. Now, if anyone had a wedding coming up, they would always ask her to sing. A mother of four children, her siblings described Bridget as a loving mother. I would say her favorite thing was her children, said Sharon London, her older sister. Now, according to her, Bridget moved to Memphis down to Brookhaven about a year before her death and used to be really close to her two oldest children have who now have children of their own. Now, what's sad is knowing that they won't ever get to know their grandmother because someone else decided for whatever reason to take her. On the night of July 6th, 2015, Bridget answered her door and was shot multiple times. Her two youngest children were in the house, and her oldest daughter was right outside in the driveway. Her oldest son had just left for work. No one had been arrested for her murder to this day. Now, to take her life in front of her own kids was a very cowardly move, says her brother, but she is missed by so many. 8 years later, her family's still searching for answers to this case. Now, Sharon London's reason for her involvement is not just for herself, but for her late father, who never got to see Bridget's case solved. Now, I know she's entitled to justice, says London. This is what she's supposed to get. This is what she deserves. Now, if any of you have any information on Bridget's case, you are asked to contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office Crime Stoppers at 601-987-1573. Isn't that just heartbreaking? That is terrible. You look over here. Hey, Barbara, how are you? Well, your wrench is gone. Girl, I don't even know what's going on with YouTube. I will give that back as soon as I can. I don't even know what's going on with YouTube. I have lost subscribers. I've gained subscribers. Barbara, I'm sorry. I will give you your wrench back as soon as I can get off this live. That's wild to me. My goodness. But thank you all for coming in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Okay, so next. Oh, look at me. I'm already messing up. I almost went completely out of here. So next, we have Roderick. Now, Roderick Jackson, his story is a little different. Now, as I sit in heaven and watch you every day, I try to show you signs that never go away. A line from a poem anonymously written to Velma Newman a few months after the death of her son, Roderick Jackson. Now, this poem has become the heart behind keeping her son's memory alive. The comfort of feeling looked upon from above by her son brings that joy of and encouragement that Velma needs to keep his memory alive. Now, Jackson was shot dead in the street along 7th Avenue in South St. Petersburg on March 13th of 2019. Video surveillance shows two men riding bicycles near the crime scene during the time Jackson was killed. The men have not been identified, but authorities and family members hold on to the hope that they one day will be the killer will be found, and one day they will be able to have their justice. You look over here. This even looks strange to me, but that's okay. I already know you're I'm a meanie. I'm sorry, Barb. I'm not a meanie, I promise. Well, I can be a meanie, I guess, but I don't mean to be. The man who was killed that night was a kind soul. Now, his mom says he's a man who loved to eat, he loved animals, and above everything, he loved his family. Now, he was my, can you come do this for me, child? His mom says. He would come and help me do things around the house. For me, he would change a light bulb that nobody could reach. As a matter of fact, the day he died, he came and changed the light bulb for me. Now, Jackson's children live with their mother and come to visit Velma frequently. Velma's way of keeping Roderick alive is just by telling them his stories, keeping pictures around the house, and reminding them that each day he loved them deeply. Now, Roderick was cremated, and Velma is holding on to his ashes, planning to scatter them during a celebration of his life around the time that an arrest is actually made. As of today, the case is still open, and authorities are still looking for leads, hoping to bring Roderick's killer to justice. Now, Roderick's family celebrates his birthday each year and hosts a vigil in his memory on March 13th. If you have any information about this, please contact 727-893-7780, or you can text SPPD to the information to tip 411. Well, that's new. I'm not used to the new tip thing, but that's definitely new. Unless you guys have heard of that before, I haven't heard of that. Okay, so next we have Willis. Now, this story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and the University of North Florida journalism class. Three dots top right to what? What are you talking about, Frank? Three dots top right. I don't see three dots top right. Frank, are you okay? Did someone ask? Um, do you mean to hit the like, maybe? Frank's got me all confused here. I don't know what he's talking about. Do you mean to hit the like? Um, oh, for all messages? Is that what you mean? Sorry, brain fart. Listen, it's late, but it's early because it is 1:52 here. So, y'all, I can come up with some wild crap tonight. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I want to make sure everything's okay in chat. I see. So I think Barbara was in top messages instead of all messages. Well, thank you for helping her, Frank. I appreciate it. Because I was like, three dots, what is Frank talking about? Okay, let me start over. Sorry, guys, brain fart. I have these all the time. All right. So this story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and the University of North Florida journalism class. Willis McLendon had a reputation for being the kindest human being. He had a big heart and would befriend anyone he could encounter. His mother, Rita Shaw, said everyone called him Sunshine because his smile brightened the world. Oh, no, Willis's smile was so big you could barely see his eyes. Willis was popular for all the right reasons. His heart of gold always shined through. One day, Willis never returned from a trip from Walmart. Ugh, man, this is so heartbreaking. It's horrible. He had promised his pregnant girlfriend that he would accompany her to a doctor's appointment that afternoon. Now, Willis never showed up. Every day his mom called him on her way to work, and every day that he had went missing, she called him every day and got the voicemail. It was not like him to be gone for long periods and to not tell anyone. And after 24 hours of no contact from Willis, the whole family started calling everyone who knew him. The family posted missing persons flyers, and search parties began to scour the area. Now, this family didn't feel like the police took his disappearance seriously. Willis's family lost faith in the justice system. We see that too often, don't we? Willis's mother and aunt began their own investigation. On January 15th, 2007, 2 weeks after his 20th birthday, Willis's body was found by a CSX railroad worker on Newtown Road in Monroe, North Carolina. Now, that's by a CSX railroad worker that family kind of knew. He had been shot to death. Now, Willis had a contagious smile and a beautiful soul. He was born and raised in Monroe, North Carolina. At the time of his death, Willis had just started classes at South Piedmont County College and was still figuring out what he wanted to do with his life. Willis was not like other 19-year-old men. He drove like an old man. Sounds like my boy. He drove like an old man and he ironed his undershirts. He was always very particular and neat. Willis was raised to be a gentleman. His mother gave birth to him at age 17, and he was always a mama's boy. The three of them, including Willis's younger brother Derek, lived in the boy's grandmother's home. Now, Willis was very old school due to his grandma's helping raise him. Here we go with mine because mine's the same way. So he was raised kind of old school because his grandma was raising him. So he paid great attention to detail to everything. He sure was everything perfect to her. He refused to wear black shirts if they were faded. Now they had to be the exact shade of the day when he got them. It had to stay completely dark black. Willis scrubbed his shoes clean with toothbrushes and to get up at 5 a.m. to iron his clothes, always with his trademark smile. Willis always showed his girlfriend how much he appreciated her by just sporadically doing thoughtful things for her. Once he borrowed a coworker's car to drive up the street just to visit her at work just for a second. Now, Willie's girlfriend, Brooke, states, the love the love me and Willis shared was a blessing, and that very few people will ever experience a love like it in their lifetime. According to Willis's mother, he called every fish he caught the biggest in the world. Well, so do I. I mean, we all do that, right? And every pair of shoes or new clothing item he wanted was somehow cheaper than they were. Now, the pair of shoes he wanted was somehow half off. Always. Sounds like a man. Now, the moment the family knew Willis was truly gone, they felt like a chunk of their life had been ripped from them. Willis was the core of the family and the soulmate of his girlfriend. But in his family's eyes, they have photos and memories to look back on. Brooke and Willis only shares a few months together. But they will always share their beautiful daughter. Despite dying while Brooks was still pregnant, his Willis was still able to name his baby girl. Now Willis lives on in his daughter through the little details they share. Like her father, the little girl loves deeply and brings so much light to their family. And like her father, her smile brightens the world. If you have any information, please contact 704-283-3722. My goodness. Well, that was a sad but happy one. I mean, any questions in chat yet, guys? Oh, that was heartbreaking, but kind of heartwarming too. Because I mean, so much love. Let me get a drink real quick. I'm drinking apple juice. What are y'all drinking? Hey, JP. Thank you for coming over. Are you all doing so late? Hi, Boston. So happy to see you. Okay, so next we're gonna go over to John Paul Stoner, which is odd that JP just come in here. Okay, so we have John Paul Stoner. This story is part. Excuse me, I was very. This story is part of a collaborative project between the Cold Case Foundation and the University of North Florida journalism class. John Paul Stoner loved to laugh. His laugh would make you laugh. Now, Wendy said her uncle was the happiest little stoner ever. Whenever John came to visit, he always went downstairs and experimented with music recording equipment. JP, this is getting a little freaky now. Whenever John came to visit, he was always went downstairs and experimented with the music recording equipment that Wendy's husband had set up. Now, meanwhile, Wendy would be upstairs playing with her children and making dinner. You could hear his laugh, Wendy recalled. It could just echo. Now, this laugh ceased in 2008 when John and his roommate were murdered. The two men were beaten and shot to death inside their apartment in Turtle Creek area of Jacksonville, Florida. The double homicide still remains unsolved. John was only 41 years old. John grew up in Greentown, Pennsylvania, just an hour south of New York. He was the baby of the family, the youngest of three. He loved to build forts and ride big wheels. Didn't we all? I remember those big wheels. I just love those. He was like one of my own, she says. Now, John was an avid wrestler during his early years of high school. He loved football, specifically the Dallas Cowboys, and he loved NASCAR and fishing. Now, her husband used to take their children to watch stock car racing every Saturday night at the local track, and John would often tag along too. They would always pack a cooler full of sodas, juice, snacks, and arrive early to get front row seats. Now, Wendy and her brother would typically just fall asleep because the races would last until almost midnight. They would wake up and pick dirt clumps the size of Hershey kisses out of their ears, but John watched every minute of the races. He never fell asleep, and he loved those cars. Wendy and her uncle were so very close growing up. They were even only just 10 years apart. The two loved to go fishing together. Wendy and John would walk from house to Greentown, Pennsylvania down Route 390, a busy main road, and through the forest to Promised Land State Park, carrying their fishing poles and tackle boxes. That was our thing, she said. It was totally unsafe, as she laughed. Now, John dropped out of high school and began working at a gas station. He spent his entire work life employed at various gas stations. He was very handy. John was always working on cars, both his own and other people's, and he enjoyed building decks. Eventually, John met and married his wife, Valerie. Valerie often babysat for his sister. Now, the couple had two children, Amber and Joshua. They moved from Greentown, Pennsylvania to three other small towns in Pennsylvania before finally settling down in Jacksonville, Florida. There, John collected recyclables as means of income. Now, his friend Leonard Davis, 69, he also lived with the family. Let me look over here and chat, make sure everything's doing good. I think you guys got it. So on March 5th, 2008, Amber arrived home from school to find that her father and Leonard had died. John was beaten to death with a baseball bat and then shot in the head with his own gun. John had only been living in Florida for 2 years. Now, he loved it there for some reason. John had a good relationship with the other residents around the apartment complex and always offered a helping hand to help anyone in need. So this was really, really odd for her to understand. Now, there were kids all over there that weren't getting fed properly, and he'd have them over. He'd feed them. John and Leonard did sell marijuana out of the family's apartment, so it wasn't unusual for people to constantly be coming in and out of the unit. But this generated an extensive list of people for detectives to speak to about these murders. Now, according to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, it was nearly impossible. Now, there are theories about the murders of both the detectives and John's family. The common denominator in these theories involves the men selling marijuana. Now, Wendy said that her uncle liked to brag and believes his murder was probably a result of a drug-related robbery gone wrong. There wasn't nothing about him that wasn't broken, she says. The apartment had been ransacked and all of his belongings were missing, even John's gun. Now, there were at least two persons of interest who were named as suspects in 2008. They were most likely minors when the murders were committed, according to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Now, his life was turned upside down following her brother's murder, but she got the call at work from her sister. She says that, she was not one to answer her phone while at work, but she knew something was wrong. When Sobane was told the news, she immediately started calling her brother's phone out of disbelief. Nobody answered. Nobody answered again. She just could not believe that he was gone. On March 6th, 2008, just one day after John's murder, Sivian flew from Pennsylvania to Jacksonville and permanently moved to Florida shortly thereafter. Wendy said her mother moved because she was just chasing a murderer. That's all she was doing. She just caught herself just constantly trying to chase this murderer. Hey, Biggie Fishy, thank you for coming in. So he'd be alive, she says, he'd be alive if I had sent it, crying as she told the story. Because she didn't send her brother the money that he had asked for. Wendy said the hardest part of the daily life without John is watching her mother suffer. John on her mind 16 out of 24 hours a day, and any free time she has, he's on her mind. Nasibian said that she doesn't think of her brother's case ever being solved, but Wendy remains optimistic. The murderers, Wendy says, were likely little kids at the time. Eventually, she believes that one will say something. And Sibian and Wendy both began fostering animals after John's murder to help them cope. They have fostered all kinds of animals, including dogs, cats. They've even fostered pigs. They love being able to help animals in need. Now, in 2018, on the 10th anniversary of John's murder, Sibian and Wendy revisited John's apartment on Harts Road. There, they were interviewed by Action News Jax. I almost said Action Jackson. The Turtle Creek neighborhood where John lived has an F in crime rating. According to the website Area Vibes, the neighborhood's violent crime ranks as 51% above the national average, and the property crime ranks at 91% above the national average. Wow, that's a lot. So Turtle Creek's total crime ranks 85% above the national average of 2019. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys don't live around there. Oof, that's scary. Now, during the interview, a blue pickup truck continuously drove up and down the street, alarming Sibian, Wendy, and Action News Jack's crew. They all left the apartment complex and finished the interview at the news station. Nothing had changed in 10 years except the name of the apartment complex. Formerly the Forest Lake Apartments, the complex is now called Canopy Place Homes. Even the bushes outside were the same. If you have any information at all, please contact. Let's see, it has the number 904-630-0500. Oh, what a heartbreaking case. My God. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. How you guys doing in chat? Good? Any questions? Oh, Barbara was like, what am I doing? I see what it is now. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Barb, you were probably in top messages instead of all messages. And I do that all the time. All the time. I always think I'm blocked and I'm not. How are you doing, Biggie Fishy? I haven't seen you in a bit, but I'm so happy to see you here in Boston. Always happy to see those donuts and sweets and coffee you bring in. Oh, I gotta take a breath. I think I read too fast. Everybody having a good night? I'm guessing that or y'all went to sleep on me. But either way, I'll keep reading. Okay. I promise we're almost done. So we have Michelle. Now, this story is also a part of the Project Cold Case between the University of North Florida Journalism. Michelle McDonald always carried a big black planner full of appointments, reminders, and special dates. Her daughter Audrey says that was part of what made her an adult. I wanted to be just like her, so when she had her own planner, I had to have mine. I felt like her passing was just my way of just being responsible by having one also. Now, on a mother daughter dinner date at Pizza Hut in December of 1994, Michelle gave Audrey the new 1995 planner insert that each of them wanted and a Hawaiian personal pan pizza. The first entry in Audrey's planner was her mother's death. Ugh. Audrey was 10 years old at the time of the murder, and the murder is still yet to be solved. Now, Michelle was born on December 1st, 1954, in Florida, and it was the second oldest of five kids. Being the oldest daughter, she was a daddy's girl that lived up to all expectations, or at least tried. Michelle was the responsible peacemaker in the busy house. From a young age, Michelle wanted to make the world a better place. When her older brother dropped out of high school, she convinced him to go back to school and graduate with her help. Now, she donated blood as often as she could because it was used to save lives. She volunteered her time and her talents to help others. Michelle lived her entire life asking herself, how can we make this world a better place? Michelle got married and has three daughters, Audrey, Mary, and Kelly. Now, Audrey says that as a mom, Michelle was very self aware. Even when upset, she always reminded her girls how much they were loved and tried to create a safe space for them. Hi, Lisa Joe. So happy to see you. What are you doing up so early or late? Either way. Audrey recalls times when her family was poor, but it never felt that way because her mother was so full of joy and love. The show encouraged silly and magical thinking. When the girls got to the age of finding out the truth about Santa Claus, Michelle explained is it like Santa's not necessarily being a jolly man living in the North Pole, but rather a feeling of giving and caring to others to their hearts. Now, Christmas was Michelle's favorite time of year. During this time of giving, she and her daughters would decorate their local Catholic church, and they were so deep in poinsettia flowers they would volunteer wherever and whenever possible. Michelle was Michelle was an example of kindness and a bright light wherever she went. She was easy to smile. Her smile would take up her entire face. Audrey described her mother as a beautifully feminine and petite with an hourglass figure, hazel eyes, bitten nails, and faint freckles. She mostly wore contact lenses, but occasionally would wear glasses. Michelle would frequently perm her shoulder length hair and took very good care of herself. Now, Audrey distinctly remembers her mother's hands. During the cold and dry Arizona months, Michelle carried lotion because of how badly her hands would crack. Now, it was during one of these dry and cold Arizona months that Michelle was getting ready to work at American Express. She went outside to manually open the garage door. As Michelle prepared to leave, she was shot in the forehead and died instantly. Ugh. So Michelle's three daughters were with her father at the time of her murder. The couple was in the process of filing for divorce. Michelle's sister and brother in law found her body on January 7th, 1995. She was only 40 years old. The original plan was for the girls to go live full time with Michelle during the divorce, but after Michelle's death, Audrey and her sisters lived with their father temporarily before they were removed to their father's care by Child Protective Services because of his violent tendencies. Well, if that's not a red flag. Ugh. Audrey says that her mother's death destroyed the family and its sense of stability. Now, she felt like she was on her own, and it felt that way since she was 10. She still struggles with the day of her mother's death, even now, even after 2.5 decades later. On Michelle's birthday, Audrey spends the day out as if her mom was with her, and she goes and visits her mom's grave and she just chats with her. She has conversations, she talks to her about her life. With her mother's birthday being at the beginning of December, Christmas being her favorite time of the year, and the anniversary of her death in January, winter is a very, very hard time for Audrey. Since Michelle's death, Audrey has been searching for who she is without her mom being in her life, but she's just getting more nervous about her upcoming 40th birthday. Now, her words in quotes, I've never imagined I would live past 40. I don't know what my mom would do, Audrey says nervously. Most of my life, I've just been keeping her alive by trying to do what she would want me to do. Audrey is determined to ensure that people like her mother are never forgotten. In remembrance of Michelle, Audrey now volunteers and donates blood just like her mom did. In this way, she continues her mother's legacy in giving and having compassion. If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Michelle McDonald, please contact the Phoenix Police Department at 602-262-6151. Oh my goodness, that is so sad. My goodness. See, and that's just so horrible, isn't it? I mean, it's like, dang. Okay, how are we in chat? Everybody good? Yes, Barb, we do need more kindness in the world. We do. Definitely. Biggie is folding clothes. When you get done, come on over here. I think I still have some in the dryer. I've restarted twice now. Okay, next up we're going to go ahead and go over to Tay. So Taya Cooper was born in 1980, living in paradise on the Hawaiian island of Honolulu. She spent the first 8 years of her life living in Hawaii before her family packed up and moved to Sycamore, Ohio, a small town of less than 1,000 people. 10 years later, she still lived in Sycamore. In fact, it would be her final resting place. The day after Thanksgiving in 1998, Taya's body was discovered in the weeds near the Sandusky River in Tiffin, 15 miles north of her hometown. She had been strangled to death. Her murder remains unsolved to this day. Now, growing up in the 1990s, she was fascinated by video games. She could often be found on the couch playing games with her cousin Ryan, who was the only 1 year older than her. She liked playing video games and just hanging out with him. They were that close. Now, Taya loved playing with kid stuff, but had some other hobbies that weren't very childlike, like knitting. If she wasn't playing video games with Ryan, she was probably busy knitting the newest project. Ryan remembers her as being outgoing and funny. She was funny as hell, he recalled, his words in quotes. Now, as a teen, Taya had a little bit of a rebellious streak and often got into a little bit of trouble. And at the time of her death, she was not attending high school and had moved around a lot. Like she was kind of like a couch hopper going from friend to friends, which, you know what, a lot of teens do. On November 25th, 1998, a retired Tiffin firefighter with his granddaughter went to the Sandusky River to feed ducks. Now, there they spotted her body covered by forest debris and a brown coat just a few blocks from the Columbian High School. The following Friday, the coroner, Dr. Donald Shonabrook, ruled the case of death as suffocation. Police spent the ensuing days investigating the crime and following up on leads. On July 12th of 1998, Matthew Miller was charged with the death of Taya. A trial was held, but Miller was ultimately found not guilty. They focused on one person. When that didn't work out, they kind of just gave up. After Taya's death, Ryan remembers a lot of crying and grieving within that family. I miss her, Ryan said, as his voice trailed off. Now, if you have any information on this unsolved murder of Taya Cooper, please contact either the Project Cold Case or at 419-447-2323. That's horrible. And see, that's what's really scary is that if they don't get who they think it is, do they just give up? Yeah, usually. That's very, very sad. Yeah, Lisa, I can't sleep. I got so much in my mind, I can't sleep. Yeah, it's horrible to think that, if they think they have the guy and they don't get the guy, what happens next? They just give up? That's not justice, right? I mean, to me, it's not. And guys, if you would hit like and share for me, I greatly appreciate it. This gets the faces out there. Um, it's very important that these people are not forgotten. That's kind of why I do this. I want you to meet the person before how they passed away. I don't want to be known by how I died. I want to be known as however I am, quirky, funny, silly, whatever you want to call me. But I just want to be known for who I am. So that's kind of my direction in what I'm doing with these cold cases. So then we have John Tay. Look at his smile. Does he not have the cutest little smile? It wasn't an uncommon sign to see John Tay Thomas and his mother, Anita Gibson, grabbing breakfast together. They would ride together and spend the meal catching up with each other's lives. The last time they got breakfast together was a bit different. Now, Anita described it as her son had been a street pharmacist for better part of 20 years. Well, we all know what that kind of means. She needed to tell Jonte that, he had heard she had heard talk of jealousy and even intent to kill him being discussed around their Cocoa, Florida neighborhood. Now, Jonte responded to the rumors indicating that he didn't want to live this life in fear. If he was shot and killed, then it would be what God wanted. As she cried, Jonte said, "Mama, you're going to be all right." These were the last words he ever said to her. Not long after that, on December 9th, 2016, he was shot through the window of his car. Jonte spent the next 2 weeks in a coma. After coming out of the coma, he spent the next 3 months in the hospital in physical therapy and seemed to be on his way to recovery. But on April 12th, 2017, he found himself back in the hospital again because of a seizure, likely related to the gunshot wound. He returned home, but a second seizure on April 30th landed him back in the hospital. Now, John Tay died the following day on May 1st. His murder still remains unsolved. John Tay was Anita's first child. Her sisters had several kids, so to finally be able to have a baby meant a lot to her. Anita's pregnancy was admittedly difficult, but December 6, 1980 was a time for celebration. Now, she describes her son as the joy of her life. She loved to spoil him. In retrospect, Anita said discipline was kind of non existent, which now she regrets terribly. Whenever Jonte would do something that she disapproved of, she would simply just tell him to stop. But she would also continue to spoil him with video games or anything else that he would ask for. Jonte was a good student in school, making A's throughout his whole educational career. His teachers even suggested moving him up a grade level, but Anita decided to keep him with his own kids his own age. Now, Jonte would often complain about feeling unchallenged and frustrated, waiting for classmates to catch up to topics he already understood. Now, when he turned 16, Anita says that's when he began to stop asking for things from his mom. Now, that really worried her since he was still in school and had no job. But things kept coming in, but working two jobs of her own, Anita just didn't have time to investigate for herself. She later discovered that Jonte had started selling drugs. At 17, Jonte was caught spending the day at a friend's house rather than being in school. And it goes on to say things that he had done wrong, but I really don't want to do that. I don't want him to be looked at like of all the things that he's done wrong. So I want to head back down to the very end of this article, and I just want to read this part and kind of go from here. And this is his mom's words. I would talk to him every day. I still talk to him every day. Even when he was comatose, I talked to him every day. Now, the time was difficult for this whole family. His mom, his wife, his three kids, Tavon, Develcia, and Jamarian. It was especially tough for Anita, who had adopted three children. Even with assistance, balancing these younger children's upbringing and their oldest being hospitalized to this day, Anita was devastated when Jonte died. For 2 years, I couldn't get out of bed, she said. She stated that she just wanted to die too, but God wouldn't let her. She would often wonder whether she would be reunited with Jonte if she even did die. Since then, Anita has found support in her family, her faith, and she has joined support groups to meet other survivors and share stories. Now, if you have any information about the murder of Jonte Thomas, please call the Cocoa Police Department at 321-639-7620. Right, Barb. If anyone understands, we kind of can get that, can't we? We can get it. I mean, we do wonder. We do wonder, did our kids make it there? And if so, are they waiting on us? I get it. I completely do understand. And here's Miranda. Isn't she just beautiful? Oh my goodness, I think she's gorgeous. Let me get a drink real quick, guys. All right, I'm sorry. Miranda Grace Street was born on July 17th, 1993, in Longview, Texas. She grew up with five siblings who described her as the foundation of the family. Now, she was a miracle baby, says her father. Clay and Jerry Street had suffered through many miscarriages before Miranda's birth. One day at church, a member had asked her if they would pray for the Street family. The couple accepted their prayer, and later that month, Jerry became pregnant with Miranda. Miranda's older sister, Courtney Holton, remembers her as a funny little girl who loved to joke and that presence that just warmed everyone around her. She was my baby, she said. She would sneak into my bed. Growing up, Miranda attended private school. It was then that she became active in soccer with her younger sister, Miriam. Now, Miriam and Miranda were like best friends growing up. They were thick as thieves, so when Miranda passed, we all took it that hard, but it may have been harder for Miriam. Clay Stree describes his daughter as a young woman who had passion for helping others regardless of any backgrounds. She would help anyone that came to her for her. He recalled, I would often ask her, Miranda, why don't you just come home with us? And she would say, because these people need me. High school was difficult for Miranda. She began to hang out with the wrong crowd and started experimenting with drugs. Now, as she neared the end of her teen years, she became pregnant. Her son, whom she named Tegan, quickly became the love of her life. Because of this love and her newfound role as a mom, Miranda started to change for the better. She began seeking out counseling. Now, Miranda Street died on April 4th, 2017, at only the age of 23. She was fatally shot in her head. Her murder remains unsolved, and the family is left with questions surrounding her death. Clay calls that April 4th as one of the most worst experiences of his life. He and his wife were sound asleep in their home when a knock on the door woke them both up. Clay stayed in bed while Jerry answered the door. I'm laying in bed and I hear my wife screaming no at the top of her lungs, he recalls. I get up, I go downstairs, and I see a deputy at the door. And he's telling me that Miranda has been shot. Just hearing shot, I didn't think that she died. I just heard shot. After hearing the news, Clay prayed harder that night than ever before. He prayed that, his daughter would be okay and that this whole reality was not reality that he was facing. And as people came to offer their condolences to the Street family at their funeral, Courtney couldn't help but notice something that those in attendance and learned something about her late sister. Now, everyone loved Miranda. Miranda had a way of touching so many people from different walks of life. She just didn't care if you came from drugs or church. She brought many people together that day. Now, Courtney vowed that day to love people the same way her sister did in life. Shortly after Miranda's murder, people who had struggled in their lives started turning things around. People in their community looked at Miranda's death as a wake up call and became versions of themselves that they were proud of. Aw, now see, I love that. I love that. I know a guy that just changed from being a guy that had problems with drugs, and now he got his life together and he became a great dad, Clay said. Whenever he sees Tegan, he always gives him the biggest hug. Now today, the Street family honors Miranda's memory in ways that impacts the community. Her sister Courtney started a rehabilitation program for men. Her father Clay has started a campaign in her memory through his church called Love Like Miranda. As for Miranda's son Tegan, he plays baseball for his school wearing the familiar number 2 that was once worn by his mom on that soccer pitch. He looks and acts so much like his mom, Courtney said. It's almost like we have her all over again. Now, if you have any information about the murder of Miranda Street, please contact the Upshire County Sheriff's Office at 903-843-2541. Oh, guys, isn't that, we all see the bad in everything. And that's kind of why I want to do this. I want each of you to understand that, we see these cold cases and we hear about them a lot. And we hear about their death and we hear about the bad stuff. But I want to hear the good stuff. Like how sweet she was, how she helped people. Look how far her family has come to remember her. Like even her child. That stuff matters. It's what we leave behind that matters, not what we do now. It's what we leave behind. I know that sounds like here I am having me a little sermon and can I get a hallelujah? All this stuff. And I don't mean for it to be that way, but often we do that. Often we take for granted our loved ones. And we really do take for granted the people in our life that care about us the most. We do. We just do. It's common for all of us. This next one we have Alexis Wright. The laughter of a toddler can be such a joyful memory. She laughed with her whole soul. Her belly laugh, you felt it. Alex was smart. She was incredibly articulate and she was just expressive at her age. She was vigilant, like her favorite TV show, Dora the Explorer. Now, Christy recalls hiding Alex's Christmas gifts on the porch so that pesky little Swiper the fox wouldn't swipe them. Alexis Wright was only 2 years old when her life was ended at the hands of a family caregiver on July of 2003. Christy would receive this devastating news shortly after arriving back home from vacation. This message alerted her of an incident that always involved Alex. She was shocked. She had just talked to Alex that morning. Here we go. This is terrible. The initial phone call and the shock that resulted simply could not prepare Christy and the family for the reality of what had occurred. They said that she had slipped, fallen on Kool-Aid, but I knew. I just felt that wasn't the case, she recalled. Now, Christy had ground for her fears earlier on. As soon as I saw her, I sent someone down to the gift shop to buy a disposable camera, she said. Alexis Alexis's body was so badly bruised and was so unresponsive when paramedics arrived. Hospital physicians stated that her injuries were consistent with being violently shaken. Investigators shared the same suspicions as Christie, but told her and the family to wait out the process. Now, they would do all of this in the power to hold this culprit responsible for this act. Following time was difficult for the Wright family, but they tried. The loss of Alexis and the challenge of staying patient during this investigation weighed on this family. Relationships began to fracture due to this loss. Grief and stressors were getting included. For a little girl who loved to be pretty and love her nails painted, the loss was immeasurable, and Alex loved to watch Shrek pretend to be Princess Fiona, eagerly awaiting the credits to roll so she could dance and shake her little booty. That was a memory she'll always treasure, but never have again. 15 years after her murder, Sonia Wright was arrested and charged with capital murder on April 26, 2018. The Coosa County Cold Case Task Force was able to provide evidence to a grand jury supporting the arrest and charge. Wow, so it took that long? It took 15 years? Holy. Wright, Wright was the aunt of Alex and was born in the home with Alex was staying the night of the incident. Christy always held out hope for an arrest, but she admits she did question that sometimes would they ever get it. The family struggles with understanding the investigation process and why it took so long to make an arrest. Another source of frustration is one many may not consider: how state and local guidelines may differ in how trials are handled and how the size of the county may affect. And this is very true, guys. Alexis Wright was murdered in Equality, Alabama, a small unincorporated town in central Alabama with a population of only 1,000. The Coosa County court system is responsible for multiple counties, which creates a difficult process than most other jurisdictions. Normal setbacks in scheduling, and now the COVID-19 situation, has continued to push back any court dates that may occur. So what's happened here is all this has happened in the middle of COVID, and they're trying to build a case, but we've got so many counties involved. And Barb, you and I both know we had Jefferson County, we had St. Francis County, we've had Madison County. So we all can kind of get together and realize that with all of this going on, why this was such a problem. Now, Christy carries an abundance of caution with her. While she is pleased at the start of the process and she knows that she finally got her sentence and she knows there's still a lot more to endure, she shares concern over what happens after all of this. She understands that the judicial process does not fully equate or guarantee justice. It's just another obstacle to endure. If you have any information that could assist in the prosecution of this case, please contact the Coosa County Sheriff's Office at 256-377-4922. Oh my goodness. And I am going to download, let's see if I can save this image. I want to show you. She isn't just adorable. She is the cutest baby. Let's see if I can get that loaded real quick. Oh my goodness, guys, just my heart. Yeah, here she is. Look at that. Is she not the most cutest thing? Oh my God. Adorable. Just adorable. And guys, like I said, I'll end with this. I've been on 50 minutes. I know usually they don't come back and watch after like 50 minutes. People are just like, no, I'm done. So I will get off here, and I want to thank you all for joining this morning. Cannot believe that you guys are even awake at 2:33 my time. I can't thank you all enough for joining me today. Guys, don't take life for granted. Love the ones that love you. Be nice to someone. Say something nice to someone that you don't like. It sucks. Yeah, it does. But you know what? You're the bigger person for it. And with that, I just want to say thanks again for being here. God bless you. I hope you sleep well. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, guys. God bless. Goodbye.
In a world that turns too fast, some are lost, left in the past. But we won't let silence win. We'll speak their names again. Voices rising through the dark. Every story leaves a mark. We are the ones who won't forget. The fight for truth is not done yet. We shine the light, we raise the call. For the missing, the broken, we stand tall. For justice, for healing, for every tear, we carry their names